So, every once in a while, we like to get into some real life stories. And look, this story is a long one to recap. All right. This is a long one, but I'm not going through the 7-part series that is this woman's life. You can go on TikTok to watch this. But can we talk about Gail Lewis? Oh, you saw that story. Can we talk about Gail Lewis? I'm just going to give you a part of it, just so you can go do your own deep dive on TikTok in regards to the saga that is her now life. Woo! Gail Lewis found out her husband, allegedly. Thank you, Yolissa. We'll talk about the trust right after this, because it's a perfect segue into the trust. So Gail Lewis apparently found out that her husband of 20-something years was cheating. All right? She found out that her husband was cheating from a airline representative. I'm still a little confused by this, but I'm going to play the story for you from her own words. All right? So let me play this clip. Shout out to our friends over at the Neighborhood Talk. Like I said, you can see the full story on Gail's TikTok. Oh, Adrian. Adrian says, I want to see Gail on Real Housewives of Atlanta. Pronto. Doesn't Gail know Kandi? I mean, a lot of the folks in oh, see, I know it. Andrew, thank you. She and Kandi Burruss are friends.
Story time. So, yesterday, I was with my daughters, Riley and Kayla, and they was like, did you see that story going viral on TikTok about the lady who caught her husband at the airport? I said, that sounds familiar, but I don't know. Now, why I didn't know my homegirl had got on live and told her story, and now it's viral. It's life, y'all. Hey, it's life. So, we gotta keep living. So it's life. I'm gonna have to get you on speak on it now. How are you doing, though? Tell the people currently, how are you?
I'm good. I'm getting stronger every day. It's been tough. No one ever wants to go through this, but I've had a lot of support and from my family, from my friends, and like I said from the very beginning, it's not something that I'm really comfortable sharing. But I just don't think when women or whoever's ever been done wrong, that you have to be the one to go and hide under a rock, that you have to be ashamed of something or made you feel like being embarrassed. Why do I have to go and hide? And I think I should be able to speak my truth. They're doing their thing, I should have to do mine too.
Okay, let me ask you this. As your husband, did he call you after you went by? Because I know everybody been hitting him.
Not. Everybody's asking me that. No, he hadn't called me all the time.
Really?
Yeah, why would he call me now?
He didn't say anything?
He lived with a woman. What are you talking about?
Well, I know her page is private from what the people say. She done went private.
Well, you were out in public. Why you going private now? You were public before. I saw you at the airport with you. You been posting your pictures on Instagram and talking shit to me for months. Give me subliminal messages. Now, why are you private now? Because if you calling me the liar and said I had done something wrong and I was the wife, you out doing your thing. You can't call me a liar, girl. Why you private now? You don't have to go private if there's nothing wrong. If you're living right, you're doing right. Don't do that.
All right. Well, anyway. It just cracked me up because my daughters just asked me about you yesterday, and here you are today. So I said, I got to do it.
So, Kandi, give her producer's information right now. Right now. All right. Yeah, exactly, Justin. Justice, thank you for the trifling airlines. Come on. Okay, it's about 8 minutes. Go get a snack. I'm actually going to fill my water bottle while this plays because this is a mess. Take a listen.
Let me just preface this by saying I'm a nice person. I'm a sweet person. I'll do anything for my family and my friends. And I'll help anybody out. Try to stay in my own lane. I try not to bother anyone or do any of that. But when people play in my face and plot and plan and do foul stuff, I'm not so nice anymore. And that's how most of us are. So let me start by saying on October 29th of 2022, my husband was scheduled to come home from a trip from Europe. He told me he had been over there working, and he worked a lot for his, his corporate job. I thought he was working anyway. Told me he had a speaking engagement in Europe. So I wanted to make sure that I had dinner and everything ready for him by the time he got home. So I called the airline. So I knew the flight number, and I was driving, so I couldn't, type it in my computer, because usually if you just type a flight number in, it'll just pop up what time the flight's going to land. So I had to call the airline that day, and when I asked the flight attendant, or not the flight attendant, I'm sorry, but the representative, what time the flight came in, he asked for my husband's name. And I was like, you don't need his name. I was like, just give me the flight information. If I typed it in, it's the flight information. You don't need his name. So he was adamant about me giving the name. So I gave him the name. He comes back a few minutes later and he says, Mr. Such and Such and Miss What's Her Name landed 20 minutes ago. So I'm in shock, because I've been married 25, 26 years, and I'm thinking I'm just married to this upstanding citizen. So I said, no, just his name. I don't know who that other person is, but
Pause. Pause. This is interesting because why would this representative need this information, be giving all of this information? I mean, I hope they don't lose their job, but thank you, right? Because if she didn't get this information, she would have never known. She would have went on not knowing. Okay, let's continue. We still got 7 more minutes.
That's his name. And the guy states again, he was like, Mr. Such and Such and Miss What's Her Name just landed a few minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. So I'm sitting in the Kroger parking lot like, what does this mean? I'm in a state of shock, actually. So my head is spinning by this time. My blood pressure's going up. And I'm like, what does this mean? So I'm like, okay. So right after that, my husband calls. And I was trying to hold it in and trying to hold what I was feeling in. So I was like, I'm not going to say anything right now. I'm going to wait till he gets to the house. Because he was like, I missed you. It's been a long, long week. It's the hardest money I ever earned. But I wish you could have gone with me. And I was like, okay, well, you can tell me about your trip when you get home. So, okay, stand by, y'all, for the rest. So, okay, y'all. So when he comes home, I greet him at the door, give him a hug and a kiss and ask him about his trip while he's unpacking. And so I'm like, show me some pictures from your trip. And he was like, I didn't take any pictures. I was running around working, and we were just so busy and on the go. We were just, just going to and fro. So I was like, okay. So we go to have dinner. I was like, hey, I called the airlines to see what time your flight was getting in. And I said, they told me there was someone else on your itinerary. And I tell him the person's name. And he was like, who was that? And I was like, I don't know. You tell me. He was like, I don't know who that is. And he was like, He said, they must have made a mistake. So I was like, well, okay. So I went along with it, but something about it, my spirit just was not feeling right. So I was like, something about this is just not right. So that night when we go to bed, he's sleeping over there just snoring. I'm over there tossing and turning because I was like, something about this just does not feel right. So something tells me in the morning when you get up, go check your credit card bills that are on the counter. So the credit card bills are all stacked up out on our kitchen counter, and I don't open them because I don't pay the bill. I mean, it's American Express bill each month. They be high. So I was like, I ain't got nothing on it, so no need for me to open them. But that was my account, and I added him to it years ago, and I just let him open the bill and pay it. And there was sometimes I would open it, but most times I would just look at my portion of it and just keep it moving. So that morning when I get up, I go to church, and he tells me that he had to leave because he had to catch up on work and all that kind of stuff later on in the day. So I was like, okay. So I go to church, and when I come back from church, I get ready to go to the Falcon game. But something was like, check one of those credit card bills before you go. When I opened up that bill, the woman that the airline employee mentioned that was on his itinerary, her name was up and down my credit card bill. Flights here.
Pause. Why would her name be on the credit card bill? I get credit cards bill from Amex. I don't see people's names. Unless she works for a company and he enlists that company. Is she a woman of the night? I have questions, and this is why I'm pausing. But I also want to pause because I have seen this revelation in the story. Cassandra, I've seen this part. Cassandra says all this ranting she's doing, and evidence has come out that she, allegedly, I will say, was the side piece to her now husband she was married to for 25 years. She got called out by the first wife, allegedly.
Hey, y'all. I'm going to address this part about the start of my relationship with my husband, and I'm going to be done. And you can say what you want to say, do what you want to do. I mean, it is what it is, and that was almost 30 years ago. But when I was introduced to him, I was told he was not married. Only to find out later that he was. So I told him then that I did not deal with married men and that I didn't want to do anything to some other woman that I didn't want done to me. And I meant that, and I still hold to that. So, of course, he gave me the standard, we've been having problems and all that kind of stuff. And whenever I would talk to him, I would tell him, he would try to be hitting on me, but I would knock it right down because I wasn't attracted to him. My husband was overweight, morbidly obese, actually. But he was a nice guy. But when I would talk to him, I would encourage him to stay with his wife and kids. And I thought he thought that was the oddest thing, but that's what I would do. I would encourage him because I didn't like him like that. And I was like, you're married, so this ain't going anywhere anyway. So he kept asking me what if I was divorced because she and I having problems and all of that. And I was like, well, if that's the case, you need to get your problem handled. I said, I can't even think about ever even dating you or doing any of that because you're still married. So lo and behold, he tells me that he's going to divorce her. He started his process and that, he wanted me to be his girl and all that kind of stuff. Actually gave me some diamond earrings to let me know. He was like, this is to let you know that I'm super duper serious about this thing. So I was like, well, okay then, because during this whole time, we had no intimate relationship or any of that for like 3 months. Because actually I was calling him Al Bundy, and he didn't even know why I was calling him that. Because he was like, why you always call me Al Bundy? And I was like, because you married with children, and I don't mess with Al Bundys or whatever, right? So once he started his divorce proceedings, he asked me would I date him. So I did. So there may be some fault there where I started dating him before his actual divorce was final. But I made sure that he had filed divorce because that's what he told me. So we did take a trip to the Essence Music Festival the first year. And a phone call came in. And, I'm assuming that it was his wife. But the way he responded to the call let me know that, basically something was up. And that he probably had lied to me. So when we get off the phone, I was like, I thought you filed for divorce. Like, why was that conversation going that way? He didn't really have too much to say. But he was like, well, no, I talked about it, but I was going to file. I'm still doing some reach out. I'm filing when I get back and all that kind of stuff. So, of course, I was furious because I was like, you've lied to me. Like, why would you, tell a lie like that? The only reason I came with you on this trip was because you told me you had filed and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking everything kosher with them and that I didn't have anything to do with that. Because he told me in the beginning, like, no, she and I having issues. And if I file for divorce, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. So I was like, well, okay, then. So, like I said, I wasn't attracted to him at first. But he was a really nice guy, really nice guy. He's a professional guy, was president of a company and all that kind of stuff. But I had my own thing. I was working. I was a single mom doing my own little thing. So I didn't really need him for anything. But the only thing that I'll say about that was, I did start dating him after he filed for divorce. And I think from the time I met him to the time he divorced was like a 10-month span. So those first 3 months, I didn't say anything to him, like romantically, because I was not attracted to him. And that is for real. If you see the picture of him before, you'll know why, but he was a nice guy. So I'm just saying. But I'll say that, maybe me dating him before the divorce was final, was wrong. And I'll take accountability for that. But I can't go back, 30 years now and correct that. I'm just trying to move forward and do what's right. But, Miss Thing is trying to paint this narrative like, oh, she was doing the same thing. Not the same thing at all, because my whole time I was encouraging him to stay with his people. She did not. I have the text messages between them from the day they met to, all the things that he was telling her, the things she was telling him and telling him that she didn't have anything and that she left her family with just the clothes on her back and, just this little sob story for him. So I guess he went with it. But like I said, y'all, this was originally about me posting a video of me seeing them for the first time in the airport.
Oh my God. Good morning, Harold. How are you? Good to see you. Hope you have a good flight. I'll see you on the flight.
So I ain't judging her. I ain't gonna judge him. Like I said, I'm not, but it ain't like I willfully went out and decided like I'm gonna go and destroy his family. It was nothing like that. So a lot of us were deceived. A whole bunch of us were deceived. So that is what he has done. That's what he continues to do. So I'm gonna let it be what it is. And like I said, once we get further down the road in this process, I can share some things. I don't know how to share the receipts on here. I thought you could only do videos. So anybody that knows how you can post pictures and all of that of the text messages, I'll show you that I ain't got no lie to tell. And the whole time, I never talked to my husband's former wife. The only conversation we ever had was when she would bring the kids over and stuff like that. But she never said anything to me about me being the cause. But I did find this out, that after she found out that he and I was breaking up, she told someone that she was like, oh, she finally found out after all these years. Like, she finally found out who he really is. Because I think I mentioned in the earlier video about him telling me about how she was not having any kind of intimate relationship with him. And he thought it was because she was depressed and, had some postpartum and all of that. Turns out, word got back to me. She was like, I wasn't depressed, or I didn't have postpartum either. It was because I was tired of being in the doctor's office because he kept giving me stuff. So, I'm going to just leave it there, guys. And like I said, once all this is over, I'll come back and give you plenty of details. So old girl can keep telling all the stories she want, but, they hanging, they doing their thing. I just got a message from a woman this morning who saw them out in Dallas last night at True Lux and said that, old girl got pregnant by her husband some years ago while she lived in California. So she was like, she's all about the money. So, and she is. And I'm telling you, y'all, yeah, I've lived a privileged life, but I've earned everything I've got here in this household. When he was sick, when he was doing all his other stuff, when he had the shit wiped off of him, she wasn't here. I was wiping, cleaning up vomit and all the things that a wife would do. So for better or worse, yeah, I stuck in between all of that. So like I said, I'm going to end this right here. You can say what you want, judge how you want, but it's all good. I'm going to be good in the end. I was just sharing and hoping that my story would empower someone else to not be embarrassed, to stand up on your own, but it is what it is, and I'm living for today. Hope y'all have a good one.
So let's continue with what Gail has to say. Gail?
Flights there, flights to Paris, Delta vacations, country here, island there. So I'm thinking this was in 1 month. So I'm sitting there like, what in...
Sidebar, I'm jealous. Look. I'm just jealous of all the places that they went in 1 month. Wow. They're doing well over there at the Lewis household. All right. Anyways, let me get back to it.
The world. So by this time, y'all, I'm steaming, and I got to go to this Falcon game with my girlfriends and try to act like I'm having a good time. But the whole time, my mind is racing. So I was like, okay, so I come home that night. I stack up all those bills. I got bills for like 8 months worth of bills. Actually, that was October, so 10 months. I pulled from December of 21 to October of 22. And when I tell you, it was very telling. This woman's name was on every one of my bills for each of those months, several times. So while I thought he was out working...
I'm still confused. Maybe I need to start looking at my credit card bills. Is it putting my name on it? Besides that I'm the person? I don't get why the mistress name would be on your credit card bill. Where's Whitney Houston when you need her? I don't get it. I don't understand. But you guys in the comment section will get me together and like, Kempire, no, if you do this and this, unless he is eliciting business from this woman's company, and that's why her name keeps showing up. Mistress LLC? I don't know. All right, let me keep playing.
And telling me that I couldn't travel with him because, he didn't want to get distracted. Oh, he had a travel mate, all right. He had one. Stand by for part 3. So I go through all these credit card bills, finds this girl's name for months on my credit card bills, for the last 10 months specifically. So at that time, I try to call his phone, call my husband's phone and text him. No answer, no text back. So I called his boy's house because he told me he was going to his boy's house to watch football. No answer from him. So I texted him and was like, hey, is he with you? No answer back. Then all of a sudden, here come my phone ringing. It's my husband. Like, oh, I ran out to get something to eat. Like, what's up? And I was like, oh, you know what's up. I said, And I started repeating the girl's name. And he was like, why do you keep saying that name? And I was like, I kept saying the name. So he was like, well, I don't understand why you keep calling the name. And I was like, oh yeah. I said, your gig is up. I was like, you nasty motherfucker. I was like, your gig is up. So he was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm on my way home. I was like, bring your ass on home. I was like, come home. Because by this time, I'm furious. So I hang up the phone. I'm just like livid, y'all. I promise you. I think my blood pressure was on like 1,000 that day. So he comes in, and he come in like all bitter bad, like, why do you keep mentioning that name? And I was like, you tell me why I keep mentioning that name. So I was like, I'm going to ask you this. I said, I'm going to ask you one time. I said, no, I know the truth. I was like, was such and such on this flight with you? He was like, no, I don't know why you keep mentioning that name. I don't know who that is. I said, I'm going to ask you one more motherfucking time and know that I know the truth.
Ooh.
Don't lie to me. And it was like this mask fell off of him. And he sat down in his chair and he was like, yeah, she was with me. And I was like, okay. I said, so that's your girlfriend? He was like, yeah. I said, well, how long you been with her? He said, a couple of years. And I was like, okay. So by this time, I can't hold it together. I mean, I think all I remember doing, I remember crying, and I had a really, really bad headache. And all he said to me was, and this was what he says was really kind of like cut me. He was like he was relieved. He was like, at least I ain't got to lie no more. I'm sorry I hurt you, but at least I don't have to lie anymore. So by this time, I'm like, say what now? So I'm screaming, I'm yelling. My son's upstairs. He comes down, goes back up, because I was like, everything's fine. But my head is like hurting like really, really bad, guys. So I come back to my bathroom to try to get some medicine. So I was like, let me take my blood pressure. Blood pressure was like 190 over 110 or some crazy shit like that. So I was like, I gotta get to a hospital. So stand by.
I'm not standing by, Gail. I'll wait for it for the Sweet 16 of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Kandi, this is how you can secure your $1 million contract. Bring Gail. Stat. So some of you said that she's the mistress is a travel agent, has a travel agency, so that's how they were able to solidify this information. People still use travel agency. No, I know some people do. So I saw this story late last night, and I said, we briefly talked about it yesterday. I think it was during our Married to Medicine recap. Someone had brought it up, one of the callers. So I was just like, oh, you know what? I need to dig into that story because I only had seen the headlines. So I listened to that last. I was like, oh, hell. So there are a lot of holes in the story that don't necessarily make sense to me. Like, so you're telling me a representative at the airport basically told on your husband. So it makes me wonder if they knew something and that's why they said something, because normally you would not give out that information. So we shall see. I'm going to continue to follow the story on the Real Housewives of Atlanta season 16. Maybe?
You bring the lighter, I got the fuse. You make a fire, I'll ask you. Follow my lead.